How's it going, everybody? This is BeatTheBush. If you finally saved up enough money for a down payment on a home, you're going to want to listen to these 15 pitfalls before actually pulling the trigger, because if you missed any single one of them, it could mean financial ruin. Before you buy a home, you really should hire an inspector to check the home for various things. Now, the inspector may cost something like $500, but it's a small price to pay to make sure that your investment in something like $200K to $500K or more is actually that valuable. One of the things that you want the inspector to check out are termites. If you're buying a home that's older than 1978, you want the inspector to check for lead paint. You really need someone professional that has experience in it to check that, rather than just some person that never done it before and they look it up on Google or something on how to check it. You really need someone that has good reviews, so you vet the inspector and the inspector vet the house for you. Number 3 is foundation issues, and really you need a professional to do this if you do not know how to do this yourself. Number 4 is not as critical, but it might affect the pricing. You can see the age of the roof, which matters a lot because you don't want to just move in and all of a sudden you have to replace a roof right away. Single pane windows, it's not too bad. You can still live in the home, but that's going to increase your heating costs if you only have single pane windows in places that are really cold or really hot. If it has older appliances that comes with the home, such as central heating, air conditioning, or water heater, if it's really old looking and you need to replace it right away, those things, you know, they don't cost very much, maybe less than $500 or less than $1,000 each, but they can add up if everything is old and all of a sudden you have to replace everything. Number 5 is something you may not think about too often, is if there's a sex offender on your street or very close to you. You can actually look in your neighborhood and see where they live and what type of offense they actually did. Therefore, you can kind of hone down on it and see, and maybe make sure your neighbor, direct neighbor, is not a sex offender. The 6th thing to check is if there's violent or gruesome death events inside the home. A lot of people don't want this to have happened in their home, but other kinds of deaths, like natural deaths, are much more okay apparently to most people. Now, you can double check this by asking your agent. The number 7 thing is crime rates. Most of the time you can look up the crime rates within your city area and you can have heat maps type of thing to see where the concentrated reports of crime are. The number 8 thing to watch out for is if your home is on any kind of earthquake fault lines, gas pipelines, or maybe if they're like on the edge of a cliff that's about to fall down or whatnot. You can look this up via the county maps. Number 9 thing is if your property is right next to a railroad or not. Most of the time, if you go check out the house, at some point you may notice that the railroad is going by and you can actually feel the shaking. The less apparent thing is the pollution and noise that comes with it, because if you have a window that's facing the railroads directly, you can see a lot of soot come in, and breathing that air is not exactly that healthy for you. Also, if you have the railroads, you might need double or triple pane windows to shield out the noise with the train going by. Of course, it's not always easy to avoid railroads, because usually if it's closer to it, it's a little bit lower price. It's just important to know what you're buying into. If you know the railroads are there and you know these implications, then you can still buy it. Number 10 is if your home is near any flood zones. A lot of times it's not obvious, because when you go buy the home, it's pretty dry until the time where things are flooding. You can look at flood zones near where you're trying to buy on the county maps again, and they'll tell you the elevation, and they'll have these heat maps of more readily flooded areas just based on elevation. 11th thing is freeway noise. So this is kind of looking out for the environment of the home if you've never actually been in that home. Sometimes people buy the home without even looking at it. 12th thing is sort of natural hazards that could happen to your home. If it's in an earthquake prone area, if there's other natural disasters such as hurricanes or tsunamis or whatnot that are possible, volcano eruptions, you might need to consider those things. If there's a great fire hazard because it's right next to these woods in this dry area, because in the summer it could light up and then it could burn your home. For areas that have an elevated risk for these natural hazards, of course, usually you have to buy insurance for these things, so you would be covered. Of course, it's kind of good to know that these things could happen and possibly maybe how often it happens. The 13th danger to watch out for is to not start a variable rate APR right now, because in the coming years, the interest rate is going to come up higher and higher, and you're going to find yourself needing to pay a higher and higher mortgage. The interest rate is really low right now these days. It's not the lowest it's ever been. Right now it's about 4% for fixed rate. So there's no reason to go to variable rate APR just to reduce it by 1 or 2%. If you find yourself needing to use variable rate APR, you might not be able to actually afford it on a very good standing. So you might want to reconsider having a bigger financial backing before you actually buy into the home. Number 14 is the inflated price risk right now. With the economy doing so well for the past few years, the housing prices in most housing markets are really inflated right now. Of course, most people think, oh yeah, it's just gonna keep on going up and up and up. For me, on my view, I think there is an inflated price risk here. It's okay to buy if you plan to keep it for a long duration, maybe 10 years or more, but it's not okay if you think you're just going to buy into it and then sell it pretty quickly. If the economy ever tanks and then you lose your job, will you be able to afford the mortgage payments for an extended period of time? If the answer is no, you're hanging by a thread basically, because if you ever lose your job and you cannot find a job within the time frame which you can support your mortgage, then maybe a month or two after where you cannot pay, you're basically going to kick out of your home and you're going to be homeless. So having a really solid financial backing, a good amount of savings where you can weather these lost jobs for a year, 2 years or more, just to make sure you can stay in your home. Number 15 is kind of related to number 14, because if the economy goes south, the housing prices generally follows the economy maybe a year or two after. It kind of lags behind. And when you do lose your job, and then eventually if you cannot pay your mortgage payment, you're going to end up having to default on the home. They're going to kick you out of the home. And then they're going to sell your home at a low price, which is the worst thing that can happen. So really, you need to really make sure that you can afford the payments for an extended period of time, even if you're out of a job, unless you're really sure that you can obtain a new job pretty quickly. So those are the 15 risks that you should watch out for before you actually bid on the home. You should know what you're buying into, and the more information, the better. I'm sure I missed some things that you should watch out for when you're buying in a different market. Don't forget to leave a comment down below and let me know what that is. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope I pointed you to some risks that you didn't think of before. Don't forget to give me a like on this video, and if you're interested in supporting this channel, don't forget to check out my Audible link down in the video description below. And also you can help support this channel directly through my Patreon link over here. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.